Good day, everyone. Welcome to Being Practical. Today, I'm going to talk about something that kind of affects everyone. But I'm going to talk about. I have talk about rental considerations. I know a lot of people are just having a hard time just get a place, but I'm going to just touch on what I consider when I'm looking at buying a rental property. Now, the biggest one is always is the location, right? Location. Now, your location is going to determine your market, right? If you looking at renting to a family, you're going to try to maybe looking at a subdivision or something that's very family orientated. If you're looking at a professional couple, maybe you're looking at a condo or something. Or but if you want to do an Airbnb, maybe you're looking at something more remote, like like a cabin or a cottage or something on the lake, right? So we can talk forever about the location. Like some cities the rents are higher than others, right? So that's one thing you should consider is location. Another thing I'm gonna talk about too is people don't is actually the physical thing of the physical characteristics of the house. The one thing I like to look for when I'm looking at the rental considerations is on city, water. So one thing I like to make sure if I buy a rental that it's on city water and city sewer, right? Just one less thing to worry about. That way, even when if you're on city water, if the power goes out, at least your tenants will still have water, at least, right? Because most cities or townships have backup generators, right? So you should have always have water, right? And that's something you always consider too. Plus, where you don't have a sewer system, you don't have to worry about every couple of years, 4 or 5 years, having to get your tank pumped out. It's just one less thing to worry about, right? So that's one thing you want to consider if you're looking at maybe buying a rental of your own personal property. Another thing I look at too is the grade. I mean, we'll talk about this, right? The grade. Like if so, for instance, if your house is has a hill behind it, right, or you there's a lot of water runoff, right? So that brings me to my next point is that you don't if your house is on a hill, you don't have to worry about your house flooding as much. A lot of the insurance claims that go in is for flooded basements. So if you're in an area where you have a high water table and a low lying area, you're more susceptible to getting flooded. So that's why it's always good to always look at a house that has a good grade, right? And when I talk about grade, I should really try to show. Suppose this is the house, right? And you want to have a grade that when any water does hit it, it just flows away from the house, kind of thing, right? So that's something to consider too, right? So that brings me to my next point is ideally uh, basements. A basement, right? So if your place does have a basement, you want to see, okay, what's the likelihood of that basement flooding? Okay, if I'm on top of a hill and there's good grade, it's very low, right? But if you're in a low-lying area, you should have a good drainage system put in place, like a sump pump and stuff like that, right? I personally am a big believer if you can get a place that just has a crawl space. I like the idea of having a crawl space because if you have to run wires and pipes underneath, you still have access to it, right? So that's what I'm a big believer in a crawl space. You can have a basement, sure, no problem, but just that is a thing to consider. Well, if you have a basement, generally speaking, your insurance payments every month will be a little bit higher because a lot of insurance companies they look at the basement as big as one of their biggest claims that a lot of people put in. Another thing I look at too is the window in the shit. I spelled that wrong. Now, window in the bathroom tub. Now, not a lot of old houses You go back generally like when houses bathrooms first came to be, they didn't. A lot of houses didn't have showers; they just had tubs, right? It just so happened that the window was where the tub was, and as time progressed, they had started putting in showers. So, generally speaking, it's common to see a window when you get in the shower. See a window in the tub. I personally, if one of the things I look at is if I see a window in the bathtub, I generally kind of shy away from it because I can talk that from personal experience. I had a rental, well, I still have my rental, but where I had a window in the bathroom. Now, when I lived there, I just put a shower curtain up and I had no issues. But the first year that my tenants moved in, I don't know what they did, and they didn't have the shower curtain there. But basically, I had to go in and all the tile, everything was just soaked. So basically, I had to do a bathroom rental. Basically, I had to haul the whole thing out, put a new bathroom. It cost me, so it was about 15 years ago. So I'm thinking, it was at the time, it was probably $6,000-7,000, right? So what I did, right? So by code, you're supposed to have a window or a bathroom exhaust fan in your tub in the now this code can vary from township to township. Generally speaking, you got to have minimum a bathroom exhaust fan, or a window in your bathtub. Now I'm not a professional home inspector, so check all your facts, right, where you live and that, right? So, but basically, I had to rip the whole tub out and put a new shower in. So what I did when I installed a new one, I got a 3-piece tub. And I got rid of the window. I just got the window. I matched the siding on the side, so you can't even tell there was a window there in that bathroom. But I did install that bathroom. The house was built in the early '80s. The bathroom didn't have a bathroom exhaust fan, so I installed a bathroom exhaust fan. So at least the air could be exhausted out. So and since I did that, I had no issues. So that's something to consider too, right? Another thing to consider, right? Your source of heat. Now, a lot of houses have. You look at a lot of houses. For this is from a rental point of view. If I'm looking at it to buy a rental, I probably would never buy, at least personally, buy a house that has an oil heat tank. Reason being, if you have an oil leak, you may not be able to. Or it may contaminate the soil. Your tenants may not be able to stay there because the oil needs to be resolved, right? So it costs a lot of money, first of all, to replace a furnace, to keep your ducts clean, to replace your oil tank, right? So it costs a lot of money. And if it's maintained, no problem. It's a great source of heat. But I personally had this house, when I first moved in personally, I had oil heat, but I got rid of it, and I'm with electric, and I got a heat pump, right? Simple, right? It's because generally speaking too, if you have an oil leak, it can contaminate the soil, and it could be a huge cost to remove that soil. And so I just don't want the headache of it, right? So I just don't have. If I see a property with an oil heat and I'm thinking of buying a property, I say no, I'm not even looking at that, right? Because I just wouldn't do it, right? Some people like oil heat, but the way I look at it, if it's a rental property, generally speaking, if you put a heat pump, you can keep the electric bill down low if it's maintained, insulated well, right? So plus, if a heater, something's an issue with a heater, not a big problem. You can just get a red seal, licensed electrician to go in, remove that heater, put a new electrical heater in, right? It's a pretty simple fix, right? What you got to do when you're talking about furnaces and oil tanks, it is a costly expense, right? So I would just stay away. Electric heat is yeah, you may pay a bit more, but from a rental point of view, most times you have your tenants pay the utility, the power bill anyway, right? So that's why that's my personal opinion, right? Source of heat, windows and bathroom. Maybe another thing I look at too. Backyard fence. Now this one's kind of a 50-50. Like I personally, most of the properties I know, like my principal residence, we only have a small fence. Like I don't really have a fence in the backyard. I look at a fence as just something else to maintain, right? So So if you can have an area or backyard, you know, you can just put shrubs or trees up. That's a lot less maintenance. That doesn't, you know, a shrub and a tree doesn't rot, right? And you can put it on the tenants just to maintain the property. They go out and just do their hedging and stuff like that, which like they should, right? So I try to stay away with. If you know, in my opinion, you know, like the more stuff you put in the house, you have to charge more, right? It's just the way unfortunate things are now, right? But to put even to repair or replace a fence, it's a lot of work because you have to make sure that you're on the property line. Because a lot of times you got to consider, okay, just because that fence when it was there when you moved in doesn't mean it's on the property line. And if you remove that fence, it's up to you to make sure that you're putting it in the correct location, right? So that's something to consider. So these things are just something that I consider. I look at. I know we can kite. This is something I just briefly touch on. Each of these topics can be more discussed in their own videos, but that's just something that I look at. So I know, thank you. So I'm going to just cut it short now, I guess. So thank you for watching my video. We greatly appreciate it. You give me a thumbs up and like and share that video and subscribe. Okay, thank you. Have a nice day. Oh, another thing. This is all these considerations. It's just my own personal preference. It's up to you what you want to do in your rental property. Thank you. Bye.